Beloved of the Lord, in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus, this Monday, June 22, we declare that every chain of confusion is broken, every assignment of fear is canceled, and every door that God has ordained for your life is opening by divine power. This is not just another Monday. It is a day of fresh strength, fresh vision, and fresh direction from heaven. Can you feel that God is preparing something greater for you this week? As the sun rises on this new day, God is inviting you to begin your week with His power, His peace, and His clarity. No matter what happened last week, no matter what challenges are standing before you today, the God who created the heavens and the earth is already going ahead of you. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? And what breakthrough are you believing God for this week? Sometimes the greatest battles are not around us, but within us. Uncertainty, worry, and questions about the future. Have you ever found yourself wondering what God is doing behind the scenes of your life? Today, we are going to align our hearts with His promises and position ourselves for supernatural wisdom, favor, and victory. I believe that before this week is over, God will give many of you the clarity you've been praying for, the peace you've been seeking, and the strength you've been needing. Do you receive that by faith today? If you do, type Amen in the comments and let your faith agree with this prayer. And if you know someone who needs God's peace and direction this Monday morning, share this message with them and invite them to join us as we step into a week filled with God's presence and power. Beloved of the Lord, in the mighty name of Jesus, as we step into Monday, June 22, there is a spiritual announcement being released over your life that this is not an ordinary day, but a divinely appointed moment shaped by heaven for your breakthrough, your strength, and your alignment with God's perfect will. Do you sense that today is not random, but arranged by God for something greater than what you can see right now? Before your feet even touch this day, God already marked it with purpose, already filled it with opportunities, already wrapped it in grace that you may not fully understand yet. Have you ever paused to ask yourself why certain days feel heavier or more significant than others, as if God is trying to get your attention in a deeper way? Today is one of those days where heaven is speaking clearly that your steps are ordered and your journey is being realigned even while you are still processing life. There is a shift happening in the atmosphere around you, not because of what is visible, but because of what God has already established in the spirit realm for your life. Can you believe that even before challenges try to rise against you today, God has already prepared a way of strength within you that is stronger than what you will face? You are not entering this Monday empty. You are entering it equipped, covered, and positioned for divine alignment. This is the kind of day where God begins to correct the direction of thoughts that have been scattered, emotions that have been overwhelmed, and decisions that have been unclear. Have you been feeling recently like your mind has been pulled in many directions, unsure of what step to take next? God is bringing clarity to confusion today, not by human effort, but by divine alignment that settles your spirit into peace and focus. There is something powerful about when God aligns a person's inner world before He changes their outer world. What if the real breakthrough you are waiting for begins with alignment in your thoughts, your faith, and your trust in Him? Because when alignment happens, you no longer chase what is not meant for you. You begin to walk directly into what God already prepared for you. This Monday is not just about surviving another week. It is about stepping into spiritual synchronization with heaven's agenda for your life. Have you ever noticed how life feels different when you are in sync with God compared to when you are trying to figure everything out on your own? Today, God is gently pulling you back into alignment where peace becomes your guide and not pressure. There is strength being released into you right now, not the kind of strength that depends on circumstances, but the kind that rises from within when your spirit is anchored in God's truth. What area of your life have you been feeling weak or drained lately? And are you willing to let God breathe fresh strength into that exact place today? Because this is a day where strength is not something you produce, it is something you receive. Even the way you think about your week is being transformed in this moment, because what you expect determines what you experience. Are you entering this week expecting stress, or are you allowing faith to reshape your expectation into peace and divine order? God is inviting you to see this Monday not as a burden, but as a doorway into something meaningful and intentional. There is a divine recalibration happening, where God is adjusting your focus away from distraction and back to purpose. How often have distractions pulled you away from what truly matters, leaving you feeling scattered or overwhelmed? Today, God is not only calling your attention, but stabilizing your focus so that your steps become intentional again. This is also a day where spiritual awareness increases, where you begin to notice that God is speaking in ways you may have ignored before. Have you been missing the quiet guidance of God because life has been too loud, too fast, or too demanding? Today, there is a grace for you to hear Him more clearly and respond more quickly. As this Monday unfolds, there is a divine assurance that you are not walking into it alone, not guessing your way through it, but being led step by a God who already sees the outcome. Can you trust that even when you cannot see the full picture, God is still writing a story of alignment and breakthrough in your favor? Because nothing about this day is wasted when it is surrendered to Him. There is a gentle but powerful reminder being released over you that your life is not random, your journey is not forgotten, and your steps are not unnoticed by heaven. What if the very thing you have been calling delay is actually divine timing aligning you with something greater than what you expected? And what if this Monday is the beginning of that alignment becoming more visible in your everyday life? Even now, as you breathe and reflect, God is settling your spirit into a place of stability where fear loses its grip and clarity begins to rise. Have you noticed how peace begins to return when you stop resisting and start trusting? That is the alignment God is bringing you into today. This is a sacred invitation to step into the flow of divine order where your thoughts, your actions, and your faith begin to move together in harmony with heaven's plan for you. And even as this awareness deepens within you right now, there is still more unfolding ahead that you may not fully see yet, beloved of the Lord. In the mighty name of Jesus, on this Monday, June 22, there is a divine authority being released over your life to break every chain of confusion, every pattern of fear, and every cycle of delay that has tried to hold your mind, your decisions, and your progress captive. Can you sense that today is not just another beginning, but a spiritual reset where God is stepping into the areas that have felt stuck or unclear? There are seasons where confusion feels like fog over your thoughts, where even simple decisions begin to feel heavy, and where clarity seems just out of reach, no matter how much you try to think your way through it. Have you ever experienced moments where you prayed for direction, but still felt unsure about what step to take next? Today, God is not only giving answers, He is breaking the very atmosphere that produces confusion in your life. Confusion is not just a mental state. It is often a spiritual distraction designed to slow your movement and weaken your confidence in God's guidance. What if some of the hesitation you've been feeling lately is not because you are incapable, but because there has been resistance trying to cloud your clarity? And what if today that resistance is being broken so that your mind can finally breathe again in peace and direction? In the name of Jesus, every chain that has tried to bind your thoughts to fear, uncertainty, and doubt is being shattered right now by the authority of heaven. Have you noticed how fear often disguises itself as overthinking, making you question even what God has already confirmed in your spirit? Today, that cycle is being interrupted so that faith can take the lead again in your decision making. There are people listening right now who have been stuck in cycles of what if, constantly analyzing outcomes, replaying conversations, and second, guessing steps that God already told them to take. Can you relate to the feeling of being mentally exhausted not because of physical labor, but because of internal battles in your mind? Today, those mental chains are being broken so that peace can return to your thought life. God is not the author of confusion, and anything that has been producing chaos in your mind is being exposed and removed so that clarity can rise. What would your life look like if your thoughts were no longer driven by fear, but guided by divine peace and confidence? Because today, God is restoring that kind of mental freedom back to you. Every assignment of fear that has tried to sit on your emotions, making you anxious about tomorrow, insecure about your past, or doubtful about your future is being canceled in the mighty name of Jesus. Have you found yourself waking up with unexplained worry, even when nothing new has changed in your circumstances? That is exactly the kind of spiritual weight that is being lifted off your life right now. Fear often builds invisible prisons where you feel stuck even when doors are already open around you. Can you think of a moment where opportunity was available, but fear whispered you out of stepping into it? Today, those whispers are being silenced so that boldness and faith can rise within you again. This is the day where God is restoring your mental clarity, where thoughts that were scattered are now being gathered under divine order. Have you ever tried to make progress while feeling mentally overwhelmed, like your thoughts were pulling you in 10 different directions at once? Today, God is aligning your thinking so that your focus becomes sharp again. Confusion has a way of making small problems look bigger than they are, and fear has a way of making you forget how far God has already brought you. What if today God is reminding you not only of where you are going, but also of how He has already carried you through things you thought you would not survive? Because that remembrance is part of your healing and clarity. Every cycle of hesitation that has kept you stuck between obedience and doubt is being broken by divine intervention. Can you recall how many opportunities may have been delayed simply because confusion made you pause too long? Today, that delay is being reversed as clarity replaces hesitation. The enemy often tries to attack your clarity because when you are clear, you become confident, and when you become confident, you begin to move with authority. Have you noticed how clarity changes everything? How suddenly decisions feel lighter and direction feels more natural? That is exactly what God is restoring in your life today. There is a breaking happening right now in the unseen realm, where chains that once held your mind in cycles of fear are being destroyed by the power of Jesus. What would it feel like to wake up tomorrow with a sense of peace in your thoughts that you have not felt in a long time? That possibility is being activated even as you receive this word. God is not only removing confusion, He is replacing it with peace that guards your heart and clarity that directs your steps. Have you been longing for a sense of stability in your thinking, where you no longer feel mentally exhausted by constant uncertainty? That stability is being released into your life right now. Every assignment of delay that has tried to slow your progress through indecision and fear is being broken today. Can you imagine how many breakthroughs were delayed not because the opportunity was absent, but because confusion created hesitation? Today, that hesitation loses its power over you. There is a divine shift happening where your mind is no longer a battlefield, but becoming a place of clarity, peace, and divine instruction. Have you ever prayed for God to just show you clearly and felt like you were still waiting for direction? Today, clarity is not waiting for tomorrow. It is being released into your present moment. Even as this breaking continues, there is a deeper restoration happening where your confidence in God's voice is being strengthened again. What if you began to trust your spiritual discernment more than your fear-driven thoughts? Because today, That trust is being rebuilt from within you as confusion is dismantled and clarity begins to rise with authority, beloved of the Lord. In the mighty name of Jesus on this Monday, June 22, there is a divine invitation being released over your life to intentionally welcome God's power, His peace, and His clarity to govern every area of your thoughts, decisions, emotions, and actions from the very beginning of this week. Can you feel that this is not just about starting your Monday, but about surrendering your entire week into the hands of God's perfect guidance? There is something powerful that happens when a person stops trying to control everything on their own and instead invites God to take full authority over their inner world. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it becomes when you try to carry the weight of every decision without divine direction? Today, God is inviting you into a different rhythm, where His power carries you, His peace stabilizes you, and His clarity directs you step by step. When God's power governs your life, it is not just strength for survival. It is strength for alignment, courage, and purpose. What would change in your life if you truly believed that God's power is not distant, but actively working within you right now? Because that same power that raised Christ is available to strengthen your mind, your choices, and your actions today. There are moments when human strength reaches its limit, where effort alone is not enough to produce peace or clarity. Have you ever tried to fix something in your life through your own understanding, only to feel more overwhelmed afterward? That is the moment where God steps in and says, "Let my power carry what your hands cannot handle alone." Today, God is not asking you to perform perfectly. He is inviting you to surrender completely so that His presence can begin to order your steps. Can you imagine what it would look like to release control and allow divine guidance to shape your decisions instead of pressure and anxiety? Because when God governs your life, pressure is replaced with peace. His peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is a supernatural stability that remains even when things around you are uncertain. Have you experienced moments where everything looked uncertain, but somehow deep within you there was still a quiet assurance holding you together? That is the peace of God beginning to take authority over your emotions. Today, that peace is not just something you feel occasionally. It is something that is meant to govern your entire mindset. What if peace became your default instead of anxiety, your foundation instead of fear, your starting point instead of stress? Because God is establishing that kind of inner stability in you right now. And then there is clarity, the divine ability to see, understand, and respond with wisdom instead of confusion or hesitation. Have you ever prayed for direction but still felt mentally scattered, unsure which voice to follow or which step to take? Today, God is aligning your inner hearing so that clarity becomes louder than confusion. When God's clarity governs your decisions, even complex situations begin to simplify under His wisdom. Can you recall a time when something that felt complicated suddenly became clear after you surrendered it in prayer? That is the kind of divine clarity God is releasing over your week right now. This Monday is not just about hoping things will go well. It is about actively inviting God's governance into your schedule, your conversations, your decisions, and even your thoughts. Have you ever started your week with your own plan, only to realize later that you needed God's direction more than your strategy? Today, God is asking you to let Him lead from the very beginning. There is a transformation that happens when God is not only acknowledged, but fully invited to govern every detail of your life. What would it look like if every decision you made this week was filtered through peace instead of pressure? Because that is what divine governance produces in a surrendered heart. When God's power governs your actions, you no longer move out of fear or urgency, but out of purpose and alignment. Have you noticed how different your decisions feel when they are driven by peace instead of panic? Today, that shift is being activated in your life, When his peace governs your emotions, you are no longer easily shaken by external circumstances or internal worries. Can you think of moments where something small disrupted your entire emotional balance, leaving you drained or anxious? Today, God is stabilizing your emotional world so that peace becomes your anchor. And when his clarity governs your mind, confusion loses its authority, and you begin to think with divine perspective instead of mental pressure. Have you been longing for a season where your thoughts feel settled instead of scattered? Because today, that settlement is being released into your thinking. There is also a deeper awareness being awakened in you that God is not only present in your life, but actively involved in guiding it. What if you started recognizing his hand not only in major events, but even in small daily decisions? Because that awareness strengthens trust and builds confidence in his leadership. This Monday is being marked in the spirit as a day of alignment, where your inner world begins to match God's divine order for your life. Have you ever experienced a moment where suddenly everything just